This boy is truly unbelievable. At just 8 years old, he killed a wild boar. At 10, he instantly defeated a monster. And by 15, he could create a nuclear explosion with his bare hands. Even the old heroes who once tore monsters apart with their bare hands now admit they can't compare. And this boy, his name is Jian, is today's main character. Before he crossed over to this world, he was just a regular office worker, struggling every day to earn a few coins and hoping to have soup with his meals. He often worked overtime. One evening, after finishing work and heading home exhausted, he let his guard down for just a moment and suddenly, "Excuse me, passenger, congratulations, you've been chosen as this round's lucky audience member." Just like that, without any warning, he was thrown onto a crossing Dragon Express and sent flying into another world. It was loud, fast, and absolutely absurd. When he finally woke up, he had become a newborn baby in a different world, taken in and raised by an old man. Because he was sent directly, he didn't drink any memory-erasing soup, so Xian still remembered everything from his past life. But it didn't matter anyway, since there was no way back. He grew up living in the forest with his grandpa. Since Grandpa was a magician, Xian started learning magic from a young age, and his talent was shockingly amazing. At the age of 8, he had already mastered 5 shadow singing magic. All it took was a thought, and spells formed naturally in his mind. Hunting wild boars? That was just a warm-up. Besides learning magic from Grandpa, he also learned how to make magical items from Grandma Melita and studied swordsmanship from Uncle Michel. When he turned 10, Grandpa figured it was time to stop playing kids' games. It was time to face real monsters. So Grandpa took Xian into the forest for combat training. The first lesson was to teach Xian how to use the monster-searching magic called Sodi. Simply put, it was a wide-range detection spell. You had to calmly expand your magic signal to scan the surroundings, and when it hit a creature with magical power, it would bounce back, letting the caster sense the monster's presence. This spell usually took 2 to 3 years to master, so Grandpa casually said, "Don't worry, it'll take a while." But before he even finished his sentence, Xian had already cast the spell successfully in one try, and his range was even bigger than Grandpa's. Grandma at home could sense it too. Grandpa was speechless. At the same time, Xian detected a dangerous signal. It was a monster's presence. Soon they found it, a red bear gobbling food. Before Grandpa could say anything, Xian unsheathed his sword and charged straight ahead. A supersonic wave followed by an airburst, then a swift slash, boom! The red bear was defeated instantly. Grandpa was frozen. Was this really just a 10-year-old? That night, the 3 elders held a private meeting. Uncle Michel was shocked when he heard the red bear was instantly killed. Xian's magical talent was beyond imagination. He even created his own magical language. It felt like he was from another world, but Grandpa didn't care where he came from. As long as he called him Grandpa, that made him his proud grandson. The next day, Grandpa sat Xian down and gently told him the truth, that he had found him 10 years ago, saved from the hands of a monster. But Xian already knew all of this, and just like that, another 5 years passed. When Xian turned 15, it was time for his coming-of-age ceremony. Friends and family all came to celebrate. After a few rounds of drinks, the blonde-haired uncle sitting at the head table asked Xian what his dream was. His siblings figured, since he was great at both magic and swordsmanship, he could join the Royal Knights or something. But how outrageous was this boy's power? Just as he turned 15, his first spell was a super-level magic. With one hand channeling calm energy and the other nurturing energy, he literally crafted a nuclear explosion out of thin air. Kaboom! During the celebration, they were still discussing what he should do next. The merchant uncle thought maybe he could become a monster hunter and earn some money. The blonde-haired brother joked, "You're so handsome, being a kept man wouldn't be bad either." But Xian didn't understand any of that. He simply said, "I just want to go into the city and see how money works." Everyone in the room was dumbfounded. Buying stuff? He'd never done it. Mary, you forgot to teach him the basics. Grandpa had only ever taught him magic. He never taught him common sense. And that wasn't a small issue. It was a huge one. So now that the boy who learned magic from Grandpa had no spiritual sense, it was time to show everyone the results. In other words, it was time to show off. After dinner, Xian used his self-created magic to teleport everyone to the practice grounds. When they heard this spell was his original creation, everyone was stunned, especially the merchant uncle. If everyone could teleport, all the transport businesses would be doomed, and it wasn't even over yet. Xian then launched into another super-level spell. Right hand calm, left hand nurture, and the entire friend group's jaws dropped. Is this even magic? This is basically a nuclear bomb. So my fellow caffeine-powered fans, study math and science well. You might just conquer another world. The boy raised both hands and magical power surged. Blue flames rapidly gathered. Without any chanting, just by imagining fire, he cast a super-level spell on the spot. Everyone was shocked again. Nobody expected that this boy's casual magic could match the destructive force of a nuclear explosion. This boy was Xian, the main character. Just recently, a car accident had sent him to another world. Born with crazy talent and extraordinary bones, by the age of 15, he could already cast high-level magic. Seeing this level of power, the entire group of relatives called for an emergency meeting. Xian's combat strength was just too terrifying. If other countries found out, it could spark a war. What was worse, Xian had no common sense and didn't even realize he was a walking cheat code. mode, so the blonde-haired uncle suggested sending him to the Royal Magic Academy in the capital. That way, he could learn some common sense and maybe even build a harem. But that academy had one strange rule. It didn't accept noble influence, so even the king himself couldn't pull strings. Xian would have to take an entrance exam. Xian, hearing this, got curious and asked, "Wait, who exactly are you?" And that question opened a whole new can of worms. Turns out, his sister was a knight courtier guard, his brother was a royal court mage, his sword-teaching uncle was the former head of the Knight Order, and the blonde-haired uncle was actually the king of this nation. Xian was so shocked he nearly fainted. And now, you're probably asking, what happens next? I got it. So what about Grandpa and Grandma? Well, Grandpa and Grandma were even more insane. When they were young, they were so good-looking, even a brain freeze from wasabi couldn't match their coolness. Grandpa was a dashing, peerless magician, and Grandma was a seductive, breathtaking, magical equipment master. They weren't just ridiculously attractive, they were legends who could instantly wipe out demons. But now, time really shows no mercy. Yet that's not even the point. The point is, the Granny Xian always thought was just a neighbor turned out to be his actual grandmother. Goodness, had he been living a fake life this whole time? A few days later, the three of them, grandson and grandparents, left the newbie village and headed to the royal capital. But come on, this carriage they were using, are you sure it wasn't modified from a collapsing bathhouse? It ran better on horses than it ever would on oil. And what's with this web of crazy connections? His sister was in the royal knights. His brother was a court magician. One uncle was the head of the Knight Order, and the other was literally the king of the country. This wasn't just some royal gold tier background. This was full-on king tier domination. So, egged on by King Uncle, the two elders took their grandson into the city. Because their reputations were too massive, the moment they entered the capital, they became the center of attention. With smoke rolling and crowds cheering, it was clear they were once fighting legends too. But now, all they could do was hang their heads and make a quick escape, slamming the gas pedal straight to the government-provided house for heroes. House? This thing was a castle, no less. When the door opened, a whole line of maids and attendants stood ready, led by a butler to welcome the master home. But Xian wasn't used to all this fancy stuff. So, having finally left the newbie village, he decided to take a walk through the city. That little soul-strolling pace, just like you on National Day with a watering can, right? Before he knew it, night had fallen, and he had lost his way. Just then, a scream pierced the night. Some thugs were trying to play a little nighttime game, and by coincidence, the victims were two beautiful girls. Oh, and even better, Xian just happened to be a justice-loving boy. So of course, he decided to build a harem, rescue the damsels in distress. In just a few swift moves, he took down the gang and saved the red and blue buffs. Though both girls were stunning and curvy, Xian completely lost it when he saw the blue-haired girl. You know what that is? That's the irresistible pull of a blue buff to a mage. After chatting a bit, they all realized they were all candidates for the Magic Academy entrance exam. The red-haired girl was Mary, and her blue-haired bestie was Xiaoxi. And just looking at the way Xiaoxi and Xian stared at each other, it was obvious. Those two were perfectly in sync. The air was practically choking with the smell of blooming love. And as for Xian's harem, looks like Xiaoxi already claimed the top seat. Soon, the day of the entrance exam arrived. Xian got there early. According to every anime law, when a dragon Aotian shows up, there must be a flashy villain waiting for a smackdown. And sure enough, he appeared. This noble boy cast a spell with flair, stunning everyone around him into stone. But this 15-year-old protagonist was not to be outdone. Xian, standing at the gate of the academy, ran into this noble brat who didn't know who he was messing with. The guy spewed insults, reached out to shove him, and was immediately thrown down by Xian in one slick counter move. Of course, this pampered prince couldn't handle that and started yelling about how his father would teach Xian a lesson. But then, someone walked up wrapped in golden light and said, "If you dare act arrogant and abuse your power at the Magic Academy, you're going against the royal family." That shut the noble right up. He left, furious and defeated. That golden glow guy, he was none other than the king's son, Agu. And just like that, the two instantly became best bros. Then came the real entrance exam. It was the first time Xian had seen people his age casting spells. He casually flexed a little and watched all the big shots show off. Fire magic? Xian almost cringed himself to death. Then came wind spells, and even a girl's breath attack. Were they here to clown around? The spells were weak, but their faces all glowed with a smug, "I just conquered the throne" kind of smile. Then it was Xian's turn. The teacher, having received special instructions from the king, repeatedly warned him to go easy, just hit the target. But the next second, without even chanting, Xian casually threw out a mini nuke. His classmates instantly lost their minds. Honestly, how overpowered was this guy? Physically, he was immune to weapons. He once saved a girl barehanded from a 7-meter blade. Magically, he created nukes and blew up the exam field, shocking the whole kingdom. And for fashion sense, he casually edited his uniform, turning it into the best armor in the realm. But Xian had zero awareness of how broken his skills were. He was a reincarnated cheat code and still needed to attend magic school. Even though his uncle warned him to keep a low profile and suppress his power, in the end, boom, exam over. over. Predictably, Xian easily became the top student and was placed in the elite S class. Next came school registration, collecting his uniform and books. The staff reminded him every uniform had magic built in and couldn't be modified or revived, but Xian just smirked wickedly. That night, staring at the uniform on his desk, a crazy thought struck him. He was going to change it. He took out his magic pen, erased the original enchantments, and applied new ones: auto heal, absolute physical defense, and absolute magic defense. A quick scan confirmed success. Xian jumped up, shouting with excitement. His first enchantment had succeeded. His cry startled his grandma, the magic tutor. When she saw what he had done to the uniform, she was completely stunned. With just a few curious strokes, the boy had created the highest level of armor, better than bulletproof vests. Basically, this uniform was now a national treasure. The next day was the new student welcome ceremony. The moment Grandpa and Grandma showed up, the whole school was in an uproar. Then it was Xian's turn, the top student, to deliver his welcome speech. Only then did the red and blue-haired girls realize Xian was none other than the legendary sage's grandson. And you know what happens when a mage meets a blue buff? On the very first day of school, Xian defeated Little Blue's fiancée and took her home. Single folks, take notes. This is what a true player looks like. After school, Red and Blue found Xian and asked for his help. Turns out, someone was harassing Little Blue. Even after being rejected multiple times, the guy wouldn't back off. Watching his goddess act all flustered, any real mage couldn't just stand by. Just then, the harasser showed up. It was none other than Carter, the same noble jerk from the academy gates. Xian stepped forward and with one clean slap smacked away the pig hand reaching for Little Blue. Carter tried to fight back but couldn't lay a finger on Xian, so he once again tried his last resort, calling Daddy to scare them. Just as Xian was about to lose his temper and throw hands, suddenly, right on cue, the ultimate daddy-powered crown prince appeared and stopped him just in time, saving Carter from what would have been a one-way trip to the afterlife. To prevent any more creeps from bothering them, Xian invited his classmates over to his house to discuss matters with his elders. Yeah, you heard right. First day of school and he's already bringing his harem home. After explaining everything, Xian figured for safety's sake he should also enchant the girls' uniforms. But the moment he mentioned that, his magician grandma turned serious, her gaze sharp as lightning, because the uniforms Xian enchanted earlier had become god-tier defense gear, each one worth a fortune. She stared straight into Xiaolan's soul and asked the real question. Xiaolan, feeling guilty, admitted she had indeed approached Xian after learning he was someone powerful and had used him to fix her problems. She felt ashamed and apologized, intending to leave. But just when everyone thought the drama was over, Grandma spoke up again. She said she deeply admired Xiaolan's courage to admit her mistake. This, she declared, was true character. Meanwhile, the supposedly betrayed boy was quietly beaming inside. Grandma then took Xiaolan by the hand and personally helped her change into a new uniform. This sudden shift from dramatic grilling to doting future mother-in-law left Grandpa and Xian dumbfounded outside the door. I mean, Grandpa is the most powerful magician and national hero, and his grandson is even more ridiculous, only 15, and he casually created god-level armor. He even invented a teleportation spell Grandpa couldn't perform. And yet, right now, these two powerhouses were completely stunned by Grandma's unpredictable dominance. Clearly, the queen of the house had taken full control. After that, Xian went ahead and enchanted Xiaolan's uniform too. When King Uncle saw this, he gasped, eyes wide. This gear was too good. No, not just too good, it was dangerously overpowered. If it ever fell into enemy hands, it could trigger 100 world wars. Maybe Xian really was just a tiny bit overpowered. This treasure boy ended up enchanting all his classmates' uniforms, except for Xiaohong, who wasn't quite ready yet. Meanwhile, Xiaolan put on her enchanted uniform and said it felt like she was being protected by Xian himself. She even declared she wanted him to escort her to and from school every day. Bro, that was a full-blown chokehold of dog food shoved down everyone's throat. But it didn't end there. In front of the girls, Xian raised one hand and showed off his self-made any door spell, a magical door that could open anytime, anywhere. Now, picking up and dropping off Xiaolan was as easy as snacking on bean sprouts. No big deal. This wasn't just feeding dog food, it was outright dog slaughter. Alright, my fellow singles, brothers, wanna know what happens next? How will treasure boy Xian show off again? I'm Little Kaka. Hit that follow and like button, cause this is the most overpowered dragon Aotian I've ever seen. On his first day at school, he brought home a harem and said, "I'll be the one to take you to and from school." That dog food slammed straight into my face. Speaking of yesterday, after casually becoming the top student and getting into school, Xian began his fabulous school life, and at the same time, transformed into a little gentleman, escorting Miss Lan everywhere. Along the way, the two laughed and chatted, little sparks flying with every step. Their budding romance crackled like bubble wrap. Behind them, Xiaohong suffered in silence, forced to swallow this lovey-dovey display while drowning in the sour scent of love. Once they got to school, the teacher gave an overview of school life and announced that all freshmen had to join a club. The school had plenty, clubs for offensive magic, magic tools, even one for pumping iron. Hearing this, the prideful prince sneered. Why join someone else's club when he could make his own? No wonder wonder he's the future king. Even his words screamed dominance. Plus, with a top student like Xian around, forget researching magic. They might as well start building nukes. No one even asked if Xian agreed. Everyone had already started brainstorming what to research. Blondie suggested studying heroes, meaning Xian's grandpa and magical grandma. Glasses Girl proposed studying Xian's original magic and inventing new spells. Her idea got instant support from all the fans. And so, without his consent, the Ultimate Magic Research Society was formed. Meanwhile, the most tragic rich kid, Carter, thought Xian wanted to steal his top student title, but actually, Xian was just out there falling in love. While Carter was failing his entrance exam and crying under the moon, Xian was whispering sweet nothings. As Carter yelled at his dad, insisting he was the chosen one, Xian was on a date. Even when Carter got possessed by the Demon King, Xian was still romancing his girl. The villain muttered, "Screw this. Someone cut the writer's Wi-Fi tonight." And at that moment, our baby villain Carter was being grabbed by his noble dad, getting scolded after yet another public embarrassment. He got a good beating and was thrown into detention. By the next day, everyone at school knew Carter was locked up. Still, they had trouble accepting the changes in him. According to Carter's middle school friend, Prince's sidekick, Little Bai, Carter used to be arrogant, yes, but not this out of touch. Something had changed since he joined a particular club. Prince muttered, "They let that clown join a club? Were the teachers blind?" Turns out the teacher was blind, literally. He always wore an eye patch, yet moved like a ninja. But let's be real, this is the most shamelessly satisfying protagonist ever. On his first day, he brought 2 girls to school. His daily flexes were the magic world ceiling. He casually wiped out a monster with his pinky, terrifying his classmates. Yep, he killed that thing when he was just 10. Meanwhile, Carter was locked up, and his new club advisor, the blind teacher, may not see, but he moved like he could see everything. After Carter's mom begged for help, the teacher flashed a sly grin. When he entered the cell, he first sealed the door with magic and then launched straight into a roast. "You're definitely the chosen one, because you're the dumbest of them all." Not surprisingly, Carter was now fully guided right into darkness. Back at school during lunch, Xian and Xiaolan were spraying dog food like a lawn sprinkler. Everyone else had no choice but to join the flirty chaos. First, the prince declared, "Since Carter is locked up, Xiaolan is safe now. Xian, no need to tire yourself babysitting her." Before Xian could react, Xiaolan stood up like lightning and said she wanted to give herself to him. Boom! Male classmates took a critical hit straight to the soul. Of course, no wonder he's a genius. It's only his first day at school, and a girl already volunteered herself to him. But that was just the beginning. Everyone was super curious about Xian's combat power, so Glasses Girl casually asked if, as a mage, he'd ever actually fought a monster. Xian scratched his head a little embarrassed and said, "I only killed a bear once." The moment those words left his mouth, everyone's jaw hit the floor. Without even trying, he just flexed again. But one dude couldn't hold back his cursed curiosity and asked, "How old were you when you did that?" "Bro, this kid is 15. What do you think the answer's gonna be? Are you trying to die from comparison?" When Xian said 10, everyone backed up like they'd been hit by a truck. It was brutal. Same age, worlds apart. And if that wasn't enough, Xian added, "I guess I'm still not that good." Man, that was the final blow. Like getting sucker punched by your overdue credit card bill. This is what you get when a megastar's full of charm and drama. He's the most outrageous, overpowered dragon Aotian I've ever seen. Sage's grandson, flexing so hard it's dog blood delicious. Want more? Hit follow and like, I'm Little Kaka, and you won't believe how ridiculous a top student becomes when he transmigrates to another world. He mixes hydrogen and oxygen, lights it with magic, and boom, explosions bigger than nukes. He focuses sunlight through magic and creates a death beam that vaporizes demon kings. He is none other than Xian, the protagonist who got into a car crash and woke up in another world. Right now, a savage monster stands before him. It used to be a rich kid, now fully demonized. Just as it roared and attacked with flames, catching everyone off guard, Xian flashed in and blocked the blast with a magic shield. Though he took the hit and bled, the enchanted armor healed him instantly. Just as everyone was wondering how Carter, who had been locked up, showed up again, the real chaos hit. Carter stepped out glowing with purple light, muttering strange words, his eyes bloodshot, then let out a terrifying scream. His demonic energy exploded outward, so terrifying I nearly flung my mouse across the room. Xian told everyone to evacuate immediately. Once they ran, he began charging his Torilla nuke spell, but Carter's attack came fast. Xian slid aside to dodge, then countered with his self-invented mini nuke spell. Carter got blasted and collapsed, but Xian was stunned. That tiny spell packed such power? Yet in the very next second, the monster stood back up, now ranting crazily. No one could believe it. This nerdy magic genius was facing an enemy straight out of a nightmare. A demonified Carter, who should have been howling like a zombie, could still talk. Suspicious, Xian started testing him. As Carter charged a big attack, Xian flew up and summoned lightning, shocking him until his words got jumbled. That confirmed it. He hadn't completely lost his humanity. Feeling a sudden wave of compassion, Xian dodged his attacks with flawless S-shaped footwork, trying to subdue him. But Carter had lost it. He gathered all his magic into one massive self-destruction move, intending to take everyone down with him. Whether the net breaks or not, this fish was definitely going to die. And if the blast landed, the entire school school would go down with him. With no time to spare, Xian unsheathed his 10-meter-long sacred sword, swung it in reverse, and instantly ended it. The crisis was over, but Xian felt emotionally wrecked. In the corner, the shady figure of Shrimp Cake revealed a satisfied smile. After the battle, Xian raised an important question. Was it really so easy to become demonized? Little Bai explained that a top mage once accidentally turned demon during a breakthrough, but Carter was a rookie who didn't even know high-level spells. Even if he failed, he should have just gone berserk, not full-on demonic, and still able to speak. That made them suspect this was some real-life demon experiment. Xian decided to report it to the king, just as the king showed up to present an award. For single-handedly eliminating the demon and saving the country from disaster, the king named him Savior First Class. But Grandpa urged discretion, so the king promised to keep the incident confidential. Naturally, by the next day, every street corner was buzzing about the new strongest freshman who killed a demon in one strike. At school, entire student groups visited Xian's club begging to become his little followers. Meanwhile, the king, having received Xian's warning, immediately launched an emergency meeting and formed a special investigation team to track the truth. The team worked quickly and soon locked onto the last person who saw Carter, teacher Abing. When investigators confronted him, Abing played the sympathy card, saying he was an exiled prince from another country, injured and blinded during a failed coup. As a foreigner seeking asylum, he claimed he worked hard to train students as a way to give back. He expressed deep regret about Carter's transformation, and when invited to assist as an expert, gladly agreed. But little did they know, the genius hero Xian, who blends hydrogen and oxygen with magic for explosions that rival nukes, who focuses sunlight into deadly beams and erased a demon king on the spot, had just defeated Carter, a demonified classmate, with his signature move, and that investigation had now reached its climax. While investigators pretended to request Abing's help in studying demonization, they brought him to the training grounds, where royal guards immediately surrounded him. But Abing didn't flinch. The investigator said, because of the demon incident, the king issued a gag order. No one was told the name of the transformed student. Only the culprit would know it was Carter. Just earlier, Abing had said that name aloud. He had exposed himself. Smiling slyly, Abing burst out laughing and confessed. This was merely the first successful subject of his grand demonic experiment. And so there was no need for Abing to pretend anymore. After admitting everything, he gathered immense magical power in his palm, just as Xian and his classmates happened to pass by the training grounds. Suddenly, an explosion ripped open a massive hole in the wall, shaking the entire place. When Xian realized that this blind man was actually the one behind Carter's demonization, he couldn't hold it in. He immediately summoned blue magic energy and launched a barrage of attacks, but the enemy blocked everything with defense magic, even dodging close-range arrow strikes with ease. It was clear. Only a big move would work. Xian slammed the ground with an area of effect blast, forcing Abing into the air, and waited for the perfect moment to strike while he fell. But no one expected Abing to activate advanced flight magic, levitating in place. What the heck? Dude could fly. Xian couldn't fly, but he could jump high, so he leapt up and combined a mountain-cleaving slash with a mini nuke. Caught off guard, Abing couldn't dodge in time, and the blast shattered his eye patch. That's when Xian saw it. Abing's eyes were glowing red, the mark of a true demon. But what shocked him even more was that even in his revealed demonic form, Abing remained eerily calm and rational. That was the confirmation. He wasn't just any demon, he was a demon king. And Xian, this high school science nerd turned otherworldly mage, used his knowledge of how sunlight refracts through concave and convex mirrors to unleash a concentrated solar explosion and instantly obliterate the demon king into dust. That's right, this is why you should study physics and chemistry, folks. But after having his identity exposed, the demon king grinned and said, "Fine, if that's the case, I won't pretend to be human anymore. Prepare to be wiped out." He unleashed his ultimate magic, immense power, but Xian dodged it like a pro. What the demon king didn't know was that Xian's real target was the ceiling. The demon king taunted, "Is that all you've got, hero?" But Xian shot back, "If you're tough, stay still. Whoever dodges is a coward." A moment later, boom, as the smoke cleared, the demon king was gone, reduced to nothing but scorched glass on the ground. Still, Xian wasn't convinced. Though the demon aura had vanished, he had a gut feeling this wasn't over. Right on cue, two top figures from the Knight Corps and Mage Corps arrived and asked Xian about the magic he used. He casually explained, "It's simple. Just focus sunlight into a ray and zap it at the enemy." Everyone was stunned. Using sunlight to vaporize a demon king? The next day, as Xian reviewed the fight in his mind, he came to a realization. The demon king might not be dead. His big move usually just leaves a hole, not an explosion. So the blast was probably a decoy. He must have used some shell-shedding trick to escape. When the crown prince heard that the demon king might still be alive, he panicked. He immediately activated his superpower, pouring tons of money into top-tier gear, saying, "I'll fund the gear. You handle the demon king, bro." They rushed to the kingdom's best smithy, run by classmate Mark's family. As they entered, Mark called out to his dad, who had no idea his shop would be visited today by the crown prince and the demon-slaying prodigy grandson of the great sage. damage. He dropped to his knees on the spot. How strong is this 15-year-old? Just a bit of magic from him changed the sky's color. Even the other students, witnessing this power, collapsed in awe. While waiting for the gear to be crafted, Xian decided to take his girlfriend Xiaolan shopping for accessories. The moment she heard accessories, her brain spun out of control. She thought he was about to confess or even propose. She rattled off necklaces, earrings, and rings so fast it scared the village-raised Xian. "All I need is something for defense," he said, stunned. Yaolan was emotionally wrecked. Still, Xian picked a ring for her and slipped it on her finger himself, holding her hands and saying, "It's like I'm protecting you." Bam! Once again, I was choking on their dog food. Since the Demon King hadn't been fully defeated, Xian wanted his classmates to learn at least some defensive magic to protect themselves. He asked Zhao Hong to cast a defensive barrier, but it was so thin it wouldn't even stop a sneeze. Then he had Xiaolan demonstrate the enchanted ring's defense. It had both magical and physical protection. Everyone was dumbfounded. Xian explained that in the Demon King battle, it was a magic shield that blocked his own mini-nuke spell. With enough magic, everyone could learn high-level defense. To motivate them, Xian casually flexed again. His eyes glowed red. One flick of his wrist, and even an emperor would be obliterated. The shockwave alone would flatten a castle. He was an invincible Demon King. Meanwhile, the once prosperous capital was now a wasteland. During Xian's battle, though his mini-nuke was powerful, it didn't finish the Demon King. He only took minor damage. Worse yet, rumors of demon attacks in Xian's kingdom reached a neighboring empire, and they used it as an excuse to invade. But just as war broke out, that empire's own capital was overrun by monsters. The emperor realized too late it was a trap. He ordered a full retreat to protect his homeland, but by the time he returned, it was too late. What had once been a glorious capital was now a ruin, and the mastermind behind it all, the exiled imperial prince, now Demon King Strom. Without wasting words, Strom sent the emperor to meet his maker. Soon, Xian's kingdom's army reached the ruined capital, but it was already empty. Suddenly, they were ambushed by a swarm of demons and had to flee in terror. Back in the royal capital, the king declared a nationwide alert. To prepare for future battles, the magic and knight academies were ordered to begin joint training, but the students weren't thrilled. Mages and warriors had always clashed. Mages value mental strength and max-out intelligence, while knights mock them as weaklings without magic. Conversely, knights were all muscle and no brain. At least that's what the mages thought. The two sides looked down on each other completely. But for Xian, the boy who mastered both, this was child's play. After all, heaven itself had gifted him the title of Chosen One, magic taught by his sage grandpa, enchanted tools by his famous magician grandma, and now, both schools stood ready to follow his lead. The swordsmanship uncle, yeah, he wasn't just good, he was the national sword saint. Seriously, how is anyone else supposed to shine when this guy exists? Soon, the training day arrived. Both academies, magic and knight, sent 4 students each, and the mission was to enter the nearby woods and hunt magical beasts together. Right away, the knights gave Xian, who was surrounded by beautiful girls and also happened to be the sage's golden grandson, a look full of disdain. "Just a mage?" they scoffed. "No matter how good he is, he's just a sprouted bean." As fate would have it, 4 bean sprouts and 4 muscle heads were placed in the same transport wagon. The tension was thick. Xian, never one to let a dramatic moment slip, stirred the pot further by activating his taunt skill. He straight up asked them, "Have you ever fought a magic beast before?" That hit right in the pride. One of the knight girls snapped, "What's the big deal? So you beat a couple demonized guys? We knights don't need mage support to slay monsters." The crown prince couldn't take it anymore and announced, "Fine, let's have the knights handle the first fight on their own." That shut everyone up fast. Not long after, they reached the destination. Since the mission was dangerous, 2 teachers had been sent to guide and protect the students, Captain Chris from the Knights and Mage Zieg from the Magic Academy. These 2, who'd known Xian since he was young, were classic rivals. One swung a sword, the other flung spells. And the moment they met, they were back to their usual bickering. The training officially began, and the prince suggested that while observing students, they should also let the knights battle solo first to understand the importance of support mages. The 2 teachers were happy to spectate and agreed. As soon as everyone entered the woods, Xian sensed the presence of nearby magic beasts. The knights immediately prepared for combat. Sure enough, a little pig-like monster charged at them. It was the knights' first real encounter with a magical creature. They were stiff with fear, barely breathing. Meanwhile, Xian started taunting again with another wave of humble bragging. The knights tried to gang up on the monster together, but just as they were about to clash, Xian casually rubbed his hands together, summoned a glowing orb, and one-shotted hundreds of magical beasts before they even got the chance to act. The battlefield was full of roasted pork before the knights could even swing a sword. What kind of deep-seated grudge did this boy have with these monsters? Just then, the magic pig grabbed one knight girl, twisted around, and launched a headbutt that sent the entire squad flying. As the pig was about to charge again, Xian unsheathed his glorious 66.66-meter sword. The knights went dead silent. Captain Chris scoffed, "That pig's the weakest of the bunch anyway." Following the global law of face-slapping, then candy-giving, Mage Xiaolun quickly cast a healing spell on the battered knights. Her gentle, adorable act made made all the boys swoon, and poor Xian felt like the grass on his head had just turned a vibrant, envious green. But oh, it got greener, because nothing screams betrayal like being third-wheeled by healing spells. Suddenly, Teacher Zieg shouted, "Stop flirting! More monsters inbound!" Xian scanned ahead. What monster? This was a legion of monsters, led by a fearsome tiger beast, at least 100 strong. But unfortunately for them, they had picked the worst possible day to fight someone with a cheat code. Xian, still steaming, announced, "I'll solo them." The students gasped. "You might be strong, but you're still human." "Nope," someone whispered. "He's not." With one spell, Xian wiped out the entire enemy force. Everyone stood frozen. The night girl, who had mocked him earlier, stepped forward and apologized sincerely, crushing the dreams of every watching nerd by making it clear this was real strength. Xian wasn't just powerful, he was the ultimate cheat. He wasn't just showing off, he was teaching everyone else how to cheat too. This guy wasn't fair, and yet he was amazing. Just now, with one super spell, he humbled the Knight Academy and their arrogance vanished instantly. They finally realized the value of working with mages. These same knights who had struggled against pigs were now fighting magic bears toe-to-toe, pushing back together with the mages. Teachers Zieg and Alice watched with pride, their hearts swelling. The prince and the red-blue buff sisters, aka Xiaohong and Xiaolan, impressed everyone, and Zieg couldn't help but ask Xian, "I thought you were the only cheat. How come your classmates are suddenly OP too?" Xian smiled and said he gave them a little boost, not just teaching them Sage Grandpa's training methods, but adding his own magic insights. The moment Zieg heard Xian's personal magic insights, his brain lit up like the firework. Rules be damned, he clasped his hands and bowed, saying, "Forget the sage's methods. Teach me your way, please." Xian was stunned for a second but agreed without hesitation. But just as they were about to start, the crown prince stepped in and shut it down. He reminded them that the king had promised not to let the military exploit Xian's power. "Have you ever seen a cheat code teach others how to cheat?" The prince warned. "If everyone becomes a cheat, forget world peace. We'll have global annihilation." He told Xian flat out, "For the sake of the world, stop teaching others." Classic double standard. He could learn, but no one else could. Zieg, a little disappointed, asked, "Then can I at least learn the training methods?" The prince chuckled. "That's easy. I'll teach you myself." He proudly shared the sage's method. Practice magic control daily, step by step, and the results will naturally come. Zieg blinked, stunned. "Wait, are you messing with me? That's basic training from the noob village." The prince, seeing his disbelief, called over the red and blue buff sisters. "Come on, girls, show our teacher what it looks like." They stepped forward and activated dual-layer defense shields. Zieg's jaw dropped. Even he might not be able to pull that off. The prince smirked. That's what controlled magic can do. And before Zieg could recover, Xiaohong added in a passive-aggressive comment just to make it worse. As soon as Zieg heard the word sword, he instantly went full sad playlist mode, like someone just hit him with a heartbreak song. But he quickly composed himself and declared he would start over from scratch. You thought that was the end? Oh no, the real madness was just getting started. Over at Xian's Magic Research Club, his classmates were also popping off in their own group training sessions. Everyone was leveling up like they'd subscribed to a cheat code newsletter. In Group 2, it was 4 boys versus 4 boys. The knights started off rolling their eyes, thinking they didn't need mages at all. Despite the teacher's warnings, they insisted on fighting solo, aiming to look cool. But it backfired hard when they got ambushed by a pack of wild wolves. Those fireball-hurling bean sprout mages gave them a magical beatdown so fierce, the knights' egos got vaporized on the spot. Sure, you've seen solo cheats, but have you ever seen group cheating? Group 3 was even juicier, girls versus boys. It was supposed to be fun and balanced, but the knights, being total muscle-brained blocks, mocked the mage girls, calling them fragile sprouts and throwing around tasteless jokes. But once the monsters showed up, those knights were the ones getting toyed with. Just a few hits in and they were flat on the ground, their pride shattered. No one dared mock the bean sprouts anymore. But the scene quickly shifted. Because the fight had been so enjoyable, some girls went a bit too hard with the spells and accidentally turned the battlefield into a fireworks show. Once the training ended, the Crown Prince gathered everyone and dropped a bombshell. Due to the rising number and strength of demonized beings, the kingdom planned to recruit mages into the elite combat force. Xian and the members of his Ultimate Magic Research Society, upon graduation, would be directly assigned to the prince's special task force. In short, their careers were secured before they even finished school. What a deal. But with that came the need to boost everyone's battle power. Even though the students had grown stronger, it still wasn't enough to face the terrifying army of immortal demons. So Xian suggested a brutal summer boot camp. Same roof, same food, same training. Because he wasn't just the most powerful mage in this world, he was also the reincarnated genius who had invented spells from physics. And the moment he arrived, he was already a cheat character. Now he wanted to train everyone into cheat characters too. The prince explained that demonic attacks had erupted in neighboring countries, and the weird thing was, after every battle, the number of demons didn't decrease, it increased. It was like a zombie apocalypse. To fight back, Xian declared they had to mass-produce cheat warriors. They picked a training site that was quiet and remote, Xiaolan's family's hot spring resort. That night, Xian told Grandpa and Grandma about his plan, but they weren't exactly thrilled. Especially Grandma, the magic equipment master, who immediately declared, "Fine, I'll tag along." Grandpa didn't want to lose face either and joined right away. The next morning, the two old pros led their noob army toward the resort. Normally, it would take 2 days to reach the place, but thanks to Grandma's enchanted magic tools, the horses could instantly regain stamina and gallop at top speed. They'd arrive by nightfall. The noobs were so impressed, they laid on rainbow-level flattery that made Grandma blush like a schoolgirl. Honestly, couldn't she just use a teleport door? But then it all made sense. This was a training camp designed to mass-produce overpowered dragon Aotians. Soon after, while Xian was resting his eyes, he suddenly sensed a wave of dark magic. They were surrounded by a pack of demonic wolves, and the poor driver froze like a meme. But the excited rookies practically fought over who'd handle it, so they decided by lottery. Lucky draw winner, Glasses Girl. And wow, she didn't disappoint. One move and the entire wolf pack was obliterated. The two elder legends looked on, stunned. These grandkids weren't just learning, they were nuking. The training included Grandpa's magic control regimen, Grandma's enchantment lessons, and in just a few days, everyone's power skyrocketed. During combat magic drills, they didn't even need guidance. They were auto-firing spells like magical Gatling guns. But even with all this, Xian knew it wasn't enough, not for the Demon King and his berserk army. So he decided to level up his own strength again. When he said that, the whole class instinctively stepped back 100 feet. Xiaolan even braced herself with full power defenses. When your boyfriend's a walking missile silo, you can't risk a stray blast. Calm as ever, Xian demonstrated what real cheating looked like. He launched a super move that pierced through entire mountains. Everyone stood frozen, brains fried. If that had misfired, there wouldn't have even been ashes left. After training, the prince asked Xian to use the teleport door to take him back to the capital and check in on the latest demon activity. But the moment they stepped through the portal, they ran into a certain emotionally expressive young lady. She was the prince's fiancée, future crown princess, and the second she saw him, she exploded. "You disappeared without a word to go to summer camp?" Though she scolded the prince like a spicy stir-fry, she turned into a gentle, elegant lady when greeting hero Xian. But wait, another girl arrived too, and both of them demanded to join the hot spring trip. The prince freaked out, saying, "This is a national mission, not a family vacation," but the girls were already on board, so off they all went. Prince, fiancé, princess, and the cheat squad. Xian, curious, asked why they insisted on tagging along. Turns out, the little princess was a diehard fan of Grandma the Enchanter, and was there for fan chasing, while the crown princess had one goal, keeping a close eye on her wandering boyfriend. Yan totally understood. After all, the group included more girls than a drama set, and everyone, Grandpa, Grandma, classmates, and even Xiaolan's family steward, were busy shipping Xian and his girlfriend like a fan club. Even the lonely audience members like me were getting jealous. And to be honest, ever since the prince met Xian, all he ever did was brag about him. Every sentence started and ended with Xian this, Xian that, and the crown princess had had enough. The vinegar jar had been knocked over. Xian never expected that the jealous clown would be himself. Compared to the emotionless knights, the crown prince was clearly a high EQ gentleman. When his fiancée got angry, he didn't panic, just smiled softly and said, "Only when I'm with you, that's when I'm happiest." Boom, dog food attack, caught off guard. Later, while the four of them were eating, the prince kicked off his ultimate wingman mode, nudging Xian and whispering, "If you're a real man, go confess to Xiaolan already." When they returned to the villa, Grandma met the adorable little princess, her iron fan, and couldn't help but tease, "Back when Xian was little, he was a total gremlin." That little comment, whispered behind the scenes, hit like a nuke. Xiaolan was so embarrassed she wanted to die twice over, but Xian finally understood how much she cared. That night, wouldn't you know it, Xian happened to be moon-gazing under the stars, and Xiaolan happened to be enjoying the night breeze in the pavilion. Stars aligned, fate cooperated, and just like that, the two finally broke through the tension between them, ready to set sail on their love boat. The next day, on the training grounds, Xian had plans again. His classmates immediately geared up. After seeing what it meant to go full cheat mode, no one wanted to be reduced to cosmic dust. But Xian assured them it wasn't an attack spell this time, it was a uniform. But not just any uniform. This one could block high-tier magic, turn invisible, and even fly. This wasn't clothing, it was clearly a battlesuit. Xian had been researching new magic to counter the Demon King's flight abilities. Just earlier, he activated his flying magic, dragon soaring through the sky, stepped onto a magic ring, opened his eyes wide, and liftoff. Then, it was time for their final graduation combat trial. Xian equipped everyone with full gear, not just ordinary uniforms, but armor that could resist top-level spells, turn invisible, regulate body temperature, and launch you into the sky on command. With big spells ready and full buffs loaded, Xian led them into the jungle to cheat their way through real combat. Not even a few steps in, they encountered their target, a catastrophic-level monster mage with insane combat power. But the students weren't even phased. Calmly activating their hacks, they nuked it into non-existence before it could even move. Not even ashes remained, just a deep crater for a grave. They couldn't believe it themselves. They had turned a top-tier monster into literal cannon fodder. And it wasn't even the main damage dealers. Those were just 5 support mages. When it was the turn of the 6 DPS units, they went straight for solo fights. Thus, the overpowered squad, the Cheat-God team, was born. Meanwhile, across the border, the neighboring empire had completely fallen to the Demon King. His wish was fulfilled, but his demon minions' ambitions kept growing. Now, the strongest mage squad in the land would face the demon army. But could a group of 15-year-olds really wipe out a bloodthirsty army? Under the Demon King's lead, the empire had collapsed, and though he was ready to rest, the newly turned demonized civilians wanted more. They began invading nearby nations. The Demon King didn't stop them, casually saying, "Do whatever." So the demon army launched attacks on other countries. During the prince's coronation ceremony, news arrived. Demons were attacking the border. The crown prince immediately declared he would lead the mage squad to defend the land. Calming the crowd, and while throwing in some flair, he said, "Under the guidance of the demon-slaying hero, the sage's grandson, our mages now have the power to destroy demons. Do not fear. Believe in our cheat power." For extra drama, morale, he asked Xian to fly him in. As expected, the people erupted in cheers. Meanwhile, a signal flare lit the sky. The demon army had arrived. Led by their scarred commander, they launched a full-on assault. They thought the city walls would fall easily, but the guards had Xian brand defensive artifacts. The demons switched to close combat, but just then, the cheat squad landed. Unfortunately, the demons had already broken into the city and were wreaking havoc. Amidst smoke and flames, a young mother clutched her daughter, running desperately. Two demons behind them calmly fired blasts while mocking weak humans. Just as the mother-daughter pair ran out of energy, doom approaching, zap! A bolt of lightning split the sky. The demons looked up. What the heck? It wasn't a ghost, it was two bratty-looking kids. The demon laughed. "You think 2 humans are enough to stop me?" Then he died. Xian looked around at the ruined town, fury boiling in his chest. No need for fancy strategy, just pure rage. "Sorry, demons, time for Cheat God Squad to go full throttle." The magic teams formed pairs, speeding up their casts and launching triple anti-demon strikes. First up, the girl duo, scouted, located, boom, mission complete. Second, the shy guy plus spunky girl team. Third, the childhood sweetheart CP. Surprise! Those demons never expected to get killed by a wave of romantic dog food. Only the prince's group had trouble. The demon captain, Scarface, thought the prince was the squad leader and targeted him. The prince just smirked. Wrong guy. As Scarface charged to capture the king, Zhao Hong stepped up, stealing Xian's trick with a fiery magic blast. But Scarface wasn't weak. He counterattacked fast, stabbing Zhao Hong into a wall. Thankfully, with a defense buff from Xian's gear, she wasn't hurt. She countered with a blazing nuke explosion. Just when they thought the fight was over, Scarface pulled out the smoke shield and tried to punch through it. Using the smoke wand to stab a smoke shield, brilliant. Zhao Hong and the prince locked eyes. They had an idea. Zhao Hong distracted the enemy with rapid fire, while the prince delivered a finishing blow. Scarface deleted. Just like that, the cheat warriors clone soloed 4 enemies with a single punch. Not even a flashy one, just a small fist squeeze. Watching this from the shadows, the demons were completely dumbfounded. Was this guy even human? With the border completely wiped of demons, the demon realm's second in command, who had been monitoring everything from afar, broke down mentally. He thought there was only one overpowered freak, Dragon Aotian, but nope, a whole squad of cheat-level monsters had shown up. With no other option, he sent out the strongest warrior of the demon race, someone powerful enough to beat even Dragon Aotian so badly he couldn't even activate his cheats. Just as this fearsome foe was dominating the fight, he suddenly chose to retreat, because at that exact moment, our hero Xian led the mage squad straight to the border and gave the demon army a good old-fashioned beatdown. After the first commander and his elite soldiers were wrecked, the demons had no choice but to dispatch their true ace, the most powerful warrior of all, the Demon Witch. Boom! The city gates exploded as the biggest boss of the season made her dazzling entrance, and even she ended up tasting defeat. Just as things turned grim, the poor but feisty sister duo rushed in to help. They were strong, yes, but against this pro-league level Demon Witch, they were barely more than background noise. In a flash, one of them got grabbed and used as a human meat shield, making it impossible for her partner to strike. Meanwhile, Xian was still out casually clearing low-level demons. For him, these enemies were just neighborhood thugs. He'd stomp one, teleport up, blast another, and repeat. But just as he was chasing one last straggler, he noticed something was off in the distance. His teammates were struggling. That's when Swordbro and Wanderer made it to the scene, attempting a backstab. But things went south quick. The Demon Witch pulled off a teleport speed attack, broke Swordbro's defense instantly, and with one fiery blast, smashed him into the wall. Mask Boy tried to help, but ended up sandwiched like demon salami. As the Demon Witch raised her hand to finish him off, Blondie leapt into block, but got KO'd by a falling rock. Luckily, Xiaoyan arrived just in time. Any later and she would have been attending their funerals. Even with all their cheat gear, the Demon Witch was still overwhelming. In just 2 moves, the whole squad went down. But then Xian arrived. Seeing his teammates almost dead sent his rage and adrenaline soaring. No words, just action. The Demon Witch immediately launched a rapid combo, striking from every angle. Xian was forced back, struggling to keep up, but during her fiery barrage, he managed to land a a solid hit, wounding her. Right then, the prince and others arrived to assist. The demon witch smirked wickedly and chose to retreat. She slapped Xiao Hong aside and darted forward, ready to escape, but before leaving, she cast an explosive spell. Xian, seeing his friends injured and vulnerable, used a massive shield to protect everyone. The demon army suffered heavy losses from the cheat squad's support. The demon king saw everything, and Xiao Yun's bravery rekindled his fighting spirit. For now, the human side had won the battle. Meanwhile, Xiao Lan was healing the wounded, but one soldier's injuries were so severe that her magic couldn't help. Healing spells weren't miracles after all. Seeing the man's despairing wife, Xiao Lan's inner power awakened. In a snap, bang, she did something insane. She used her enchanted gear's auto-regeneration spell, channeling it into the soldier. It was so intense that even Xian panicked, thinking his girlfriend was about to martyr herself. He rushed in to protect her. Can't let his grass turn green after all. He gently said, "Even with divine gear, this wound is too serious. Let me handle it." Then, in classic cheat fashion, Xian summoned his green light-powered laser healing beam. In one sweep, the soldier's breathing stabilized. This man wasn't just a hero, he was a Martian medic in disguise. After the battle, the aging king personally thanked all the heroes. Crown Prince Agu took the opportunity to propose forming an anti-demon alliance. The king agreed instantly. Who wouldn't want free protection from the cheat squad? Afterward, Xiaoyan began to reflect. If he'd used the teleport door sooner, could they have saved more lives? But that spell could only take you to places you'd been before. So he made a bold decision. He would travel the world and establish teleport nodes. The prince clapped his hands and said, "Let's do it." Back in the capital, the nation welcomed them with thunderous cheers. The king himself handed out honors, and Xian volunteered to become a special envoy, traveling across kingdoms to promote the alliance. And so, led by Xiao Yun and cheered on by everyone, the mage squad activated flight mode and soared into the sky, beginning a brand new journey.